Hello, I am TurboGame1000 and this is a very special watercolour tutorial requested to me by a subscriber. First of all, I want to mention that this is scripted, so please be patient. First of all, I want to apologise for the fact that most of the commentary might be out of sync with the video. I'm new, it's hard. Anyway, the first thing I want to mention when working with watercolours is that you don't want to rush into it. It's a very finicky media and can be the downfall to some people if not done right. I myself know this from experience, as I have had to create my own complicated method to make sure this doesn't happen to me. In my method, I start by choosing what kind of lighting I will have. If it's natural lighting, the process is a little easier, but if it's a special kind of lighting like sunsets or night skies, then it's a little trickier. For this tutorial, I'll be sticking with natural lighting. To start with, never use colours straight out of the pan or tube. Always water them down first. If you don't, what's left on the paper is a vibrant mess that even after being left for hours will not fully dry. Paint near that and the colours will just run into one another. Of course, I use this method later on, but that's only because it was further away from the rest of the painting. Now, the first thing to do is to put down a base coat of colour onto your drawing. Make sure to never paint two areas that connect with one another while the other is still wet. If you do that, they'll spread into each other and ruin the picture. Either wait until one part is dry before working on the other, or work on another part further away from it that isn't connected to it at all. If you're not satisfied with the colours, then continue to add to them with more base layers until you're happy. Once the base coat has been put down and has dried completely, you can start with your shadows. With shadows, use a darker version of the colour with either a little brown or black added into it. Of course, don't try to work on the shadows in one go. Wait for one layer to dry before adding the next. Trying to darken the shadows when they're still wet will not make a difference and is really hard to control. When working dry on dry, there is a chance you will end up with a hard line across the edge of your shadows where it meets the base layer. If you wet your brush carefully and rub it against the line, it will spread the colour and remove it. Don't rub too hard or you'll damage the paper, but too gently and you're just wasting energy. As you're working on your painting, certain things will have different kinds of shading, like certain white tones will have grey, blue or brown as their shadows. It's important to decide this depending on either your lighting or what kind of creature or character it is. For Frogadier, its frubbles, or that little fluffy scarf thing, actually has brownish shading, so that's what I did. So that's why I did that. However, in certain sunset lightings, it'll be pink or orange or a more darker brown, whereas at night, it'll be blue or grey or purple. One of the major things to remember with watercolours is that the colours won't be perfect. There'll be mismatched shadows overlapping one another. Don't let it bother you, and don't try to fix it too much, otherwise you'll end up with one part being darker than the other. Wait until the paint dries before you decide what to do next. Watercolours always dry lighter than they start. With certain surfaces, this issue is actually a blessing. Like when painting natural wooden surfaces, make sure there are different shades of brown in the surface, otherwise it'll look too perfect. Even if it's only slightly visible, it makes a massive difference to the authenticity of the piece. One thing I forgot to mention is that you shouldn't try to finish a painting in one day. Work for a few hours, stop for the day, and continue doing that. A lack of patience when working with this media is fatal to the painting, and it causes you to rush and ruin the works, or make the shading too light or anything. Or anything, really. Also, when you're done for the day, make sure to place a heavy book or heavy books on top of the drawing once it's dry. Even my 300 GM watercolour paper, or GM squared, or whatever it's called, which is one of the strongest types of paper you can get, will warp underwater. If you leave it that way, it's pretty much irreversible. But once you've painted it, if you flatten it under something heavy, it'll retain most of its shape. Every time you stop, flatten until you finish the painting and scan it in. Hell, even then flatten it first. With mistakes, they're hard to remove, like green in the arm. If it's in the darkest part, then you'll have to leave it. But if it's in the lightest part, try using the brush in water method. You can use that for the hard lines in shading. It can remove most of the damage as long as you're careful. Don't over-dab your painting when when a colour goes wrong. It'll leave one part far lighter than the other parts when it dries, like red hair. If you dab one part of it more than the other, you end up with a reversed hard line for the shadows, and this one isn't removable. I don't even know how to fix it. That's how bad it is. When working on a watercolour piece, always have a sheet of paper as a testing sheet and some kitchen roll or paper towels, if certain places say it differently, for dabbing or brush cleaning uses. By dabbing, I mean like dabbing certain parts of the paper. This tutorial is so confusing and all over the place. Just like me! And Bill, that's my excuse. I think I've pretty much covered everything. If you're like me and don't have the patience to continue until the watercolour alone makes the picture perfect, you can always use coloured pencils or Sharpie markers to add the final parts of the shading. Sharpie markers leave hard lines, whereas pencils vary, so make sure you choose one that best suits your drawing. For highlights, I recommend different coloured jelly rolls, pardon me, or just a whiteout pen in general. I use a mixture because it adds more colour to the art and makes it pop just a little more. And finally, don't forget to sign it. That was the end of my script. So that's basically everything you need to know for watercolours. And I'm not even halfway through the drawing yet. Jesus Christ. Alright, I am halfway through the drawing. What else could I say at this point? I could talk about the drawing a little bit now. If anybody has any questions, first of all, if anybody has anything they need to ask me, if there's anything I haven't explained in this video, feel free to comment below and I will get to your question as soon as I have the time. I'm not very good with a certain sort of thing, and I'm sorry if I sounded so stiff and lifeless and confused when I was reading that out. My brain tends to wander when I'm reading, so it makes it harder for me to speak, because I tend to think about something else while I'm trying to read and I get confused. It's not very easy. What else can I say? First of all, the drawing. I was actually very happy with the line art, but I'm not so happy with the colouring and how it ended up. I think it's that girl's face. It's something about her mouth. It just seems pushed out. And with the fact that she's twice as dark as she was meant to be, then it's just bothering me a lot because that's not how she was meant to come out. But other than that, I do love this drawing. It is very beautifully made. Not being arrogant, I'm just being honest. And I worked really hard on it. I'm sorry it took so long. I've had a very dry spell with my art, and it's been really hard. And I don't even know whether I'm out of it yet, but I'm doing well so far. I have inspiration for a new manga, so that's that getting over with. This is probably one of the very rare narration videos I'll ever do. I only do these for watercolour or any type of tutorial. If you have any other tutorial requests, let me know. Since this channel's all about art now and not just about gaming, I will make a lot of art videos. I can't promise every week, but I'll try my best that I can do as many as I can. I just want you all to know that I'm here for any questions you have or anything of the sort. And, well, if anybody wants to do collaborations as well, feel free to ask. I'm better at line art, but I'm not bothered about colour as long as I can retrace the lines, because I have to use certain pens with certain media, and unless you want it digital, I have to retrace the lines because I use like Copics for marker, micron pens for either watercolour or any other, like pretty much watercolour or just line art in general. And I use Unipin pens for watercolour along with the micron pens. And for the digital art as well, and ink, like in general for other types. For line art, I'm not bothered, I do it anyway. I honestly don't know what else to say, so I thank you all for watching, and bye bye!
Bye.